We are ranking every position in the SEC here at the Voice of College Football SEC. So we invite you to, of course, leave your comments down below. Like the videos, because if you enjoy the content, others will as well. So we ask that you would share those videos out on social media. We got Blayne Gilmer here from Recruiting Every Second. Emphasis on SEC in the second, recruiting every second. You can catch Blayne's work right there. And of course, he joins us on a regular basis to cover the SEC right here at the Voice of College Football. Blayne, how are we doing tonight?
Fantastic. Ready to talk SEC ball as usual. And running backs, I was a running back coach myself at one point. So loving to talk the position.
Oh, we've got an expert here. Here we go. Good stuff. Najee Harris gone. Larry Roundtree, Missouri gone. Number of tremendous backs across the conference have moved on, but certainly plenty of guys back. You know, when I went through your list, I was certainly considering a number of guys. I listed like another 8 or 10 guys, even off the top 10 list. Again, another loaded backfield as you look at the entire SEC. So let's start playing with your top 10. We'll go to the 10th position. You're going out to College Station.
Yeah, and before I get to the number 10, I do want to agree with you. There's so many that are not on this list because there's just so much talent. And as we talk about on my show, Recruiting Every Second, the SEC schools are just recruiting at an unbelievable level. So it's really hard to fit people in a top 10 list, but I do think I've got to start off at number 10. Going 10 to 1, number 10 is Ainias Smith from Texas A&M. The young man is just electrifying. He's a do-it-all Swiss Army knife type back who can be split out in the slot. They can just hand it to him. He can run in between the tackles. He's got tremendous speed that can get around the edge, whether it's just on an outside zone, a jet sweep type play. Had nearly 300 yards rushing, as you can see there, for Texas A&M last year, but led the team with 564 yards receiving in their 10 games. So, Texas A&M with Ainias Smith there as a weapon.
Love watching these kind of guys play that can line up anywhere in the formation. You don't know if they're going to split them out wide, put them in the slot, put them in a traditional running back position, can do so many things with them. And Jimbo Fisher, the way he likes to scheme and match up, will utilize him even more this season. So there's a lot of talk about exactly, man, is this guy going to run for more yards or catch for more yards as he did this past season again with 43 receptions, 10 total touchdowns for Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. All right, we stay in the SEC Western Division and go to Arkansas. Really productive season out of Trelon Smith.
And Trelon Smith is a guy who started his career over at Arizona State, comes over to Arkansas, and is highly productive for Sam Pittman in his first year out there. Trelon Smith is one of the players that really helped get this culture change going for Sam Pittman. They went 3-7 last year, but they were within just a very slight margin of having a winning record, losing 3 games by less than 3 points. And Trelon Smith's a big reason why, averaging over 5 yards a carry. Another guy in the similar vein of Ainias Smith who you can line up all over the field, do different things with. He had 181 reception yards, as you said there. I mean, he's a guy that does a little bit of everything. And now you add KJ Jefferson and Malik Hornsby over there at Arkansas with Trelon Smith's ability, and it's going to be a fantastic dynamic duo in that backfield. And Trelon Smith's at number 9.
So keep in mind, everybody, as we take you through Blayne's top 10, for the first time in the history of the league, we're looking at all SEC games. So for a particular player, I know when I'm breaking down statistics, I'll sometimes look at a player and think, okay, yeah, he had a nice season, but he really took advantage in abuse and group of 5 and FCS teams and non-conference play. Then when the defenses got better, really took some rough sledding in the SEC. Well, these were complete SEC schedules that all these running backs faced, of course, in 2020. Also keep in mind that we're posting their career numbers, and we move it on, Blayne, to number 8. And much like we talked about with Ainias Smith and Jimbo Fisher being an offensive guru who just wants to get into the laboratory and work with those guys that they can mix and match all over the field, a similar situation with Jerrion Ealy at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin loves to work him in different roles.
Jerrion Ealy is a tremendous athlete, and he also plays baseball for Ole Miss. He and John Rives Plumlee, both on that roster, are two-way guys on the baseball football team. And Jerrion Ealy fits right in that mold of Lane Kiffin. He wants to win, but he wants to have fun doing it. It's all about having fun. The party at the SIP, come to the SIP, hashtags that he uses. Jerrion Ealy fits well into that because he is a fun player to watch, electrifying athlete. 745 yards on the season, averaging over 5 yards a carry in that 1 year, had 9 touchdowns. So Jerrion Ealy is a guy who can be that feature back for Ole Miss that Matt Corral can have there kind of as his running mate in that backfield for Lane Kiffin. And, nobody came closer to and did more damage to Alabama than Ole Miss did last year. And Jerrion Ealy had a big part in that. So, just a tremendous athlete back there. Like I said, two-sport guy, and Jerrion Ealy comes in at number 8.
Blayne, I'm almost feeling like for the last several years we could have done this league and these lists more justice if we made like an Alabama-Georgia list and then one for the rest of the SEC, because Georgia, the running back waves that they produced, going back to that Todd Gurley, going into the Gurley and Keith Marshall at the time, going into the Nick Chubb,
Sony
Michel. Sony Michel and DeAndre Swift on through the line. And right now you've got Zamir White, and we know how much hoopla was surrounding him when he signed Athens. And he's pretty much delivered, but obviously he's got to share the football.
He has to share the football, and also I think Zamir White's just getting healthy. I mean, he ended his high school career was ended by an ACL tear, recovers from that, gets ready to go in fall camp of his true freshman year, tears the other ACL. So he's had 2 ACL tears in his career, really became the lead guy, the feature back for Georgia. Don't know if that's going to last this year, as you'll see later on in the list, but Zamir White is a powerhouse type running back, a downhill, shoulder square runner that is going to attack the line of scrimmage, is excellent at blitz pickup. I mean, I remember watching some games last year where Georgia would purposely in their pass protection schemes leave a free guy and say, Zamir, okay, you're handling him. And, man, he would just stonewall him. I'm talking about right up under the chin, form fit, the way that you coach it. And Zamir White is a selfless athlete. He wants to do – he's so active in his community, things like that. The man rides horses too. I mean, there's a lot of layers there to Zamir White. But I'm telling you, Zamir White is a tremendous power back and is just now getting healthy for Georgia. He should have a very, very productive, very nice year for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Running down Blayne Gilmer's top 10 running backs in the SEC, we are going position by position through the conference, so please lock in on the videos. And, of course, follow Blayne and his tremendous work as he covers the SEC across the board, but really dives into the recruiting with recruiting every second, so please join him right there. All right, let's get to the other factory, Alabama. Brian Robinson's been around. This is going to be a 5th season for him. Has never been the guy. Should kind of be the guy, but they've got so many 5-star recruits behind him that they're going to be on his heels, led by Trey Sanders and others. Chase McClellan coming into the mix this year, but Brian Robinson, very dependable.
Yeah, and I was almost hesitant to put Brian Robinson this far up on the list. However, I just feel, like you said, Nick Saban is – people can say what they want about Nick Saban, but if you have a player – who sticks around, trusts the process, as Nick Saban talks about all the time, and is there. You're talking about 5th year in the program. Brian Robinson's going to be rewarded for this. I'm telling you, and he's a good athlete as well. He had, averaged 5.5 yards a carry last season. So it's not like he doesn't have the talent. He was just behind one of the greatest backs to ever come through Alabama, and Najee Harris. So I think Brian Robinson, it's his time in Alabama, and that's why I put him number 6, because not only is he in does he have tremendous talent himself, but he's in, as you called it, a factory there, and then we'll get to run behind a tremendous offensive line.
Blayne, if we're just talking about sheer statistics in 2020, a lot of people didn't recognize Kevin Harris's, year because South Carolina was just flat out awful. Obviously, it cost Will Muschamp his job. They only win 2 games in the 10-game season, but Kevin Harris was exceptional at South Carolina.
Yeah, I remember I also, not only do I do recruiting every second, I'm also a writer at UGAsports.com, covered the Georgia football team. And I remember watching that game against South Carolina, Georgia even blowing out South Carolina, and Kevin Harris still late in the game just running so hard for South Carolina. He is so difficult to bring down. One person's not going to do it. Has, thick, powerful lower half where he's able to keep those legs churning and never get brought down by the first defender. It seems 6.2 yards a carry in an all-SEC schedule is unheard of. That is a tremendous season by Kevin Harris. He's a great player for the University of South Carolina. Shane Beamer and company have to be super excited, and no doubt with the kind of the unrest they have at the quarterback position, Luke Doty being really the first year being truly the guy for the whole time, you can bet that Kevin Harris is going to get plenty of work. And as long as he's able to stay healthy and sustain that workload, you're talking about 1,100 yards last year on 185 carries and 15 rushing touchdowns. So Kevin Harris is a superstar, and I feel like I might be shortchanging him a little bit at 5. He could even be a little bit higher, but I feel like 5 right now is the appropriate spot for him.
Yeah, 15 rushing touchdowns in a 10-game season, and as you mentioned, the all-SEC component there defensively, and that's not just running for that kind of yardage per carry with all those touchdowns against an SEC defense week after week, but it's also when those SEC defenses are focusing on you, number one, because the pass game is pretty marginal, not great, and you're their target, and you're still able to churn out those yardage. Impressive year from Kevin Harris at South Carolina. We get back to Georgia, and you're making some interesting selections here between Zamir and Kendall Milton, and we'll see if he's ready to explode.
The reason I am picking Kendall Milton this high is because everybody needs to know, don't look at the statistics. Don't look what he did last year as a freshman in terms of that. He is having to share the ball. He was sharing the ball with 4 other running backs. Dejon Edwards was getting carries. Kenny McIntosh was getting carries and getting receptions. James Cook was getting carries and receptions, and, of course, Zamir White. But Kendall Milton is going to be a future low first-round, high second-round NFL draft pick. He is that talented. The young man has tree trunks for legs. I mean, the upper parts of his legs are ridiculous and so powerful. He runs in a Nick Chubb-esque style, and meaning he is running and punishing defenders when he runs. Kendall Milton was hampered a little bit by some, soft tissue injuries and then a knee injury later in the year. All reports are that he is entirely healthy, and even reports are that at the end of spring practice, he was looking better than any other running back that Georgia has in terms of there on the roster currently for the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think Kendall Milton is going to, by far and away, be the person that makes the biggest jump from year 1 to year 2 and could end up being a true force in the SEC this fall.
And Blayne, the last time I checked, Nick Chubb was doing a decent job at the next level.
Not bad.
Blayne Gilmer's on the line. You can catch him, of course, on Recruiting Every Second. Please track his work there, and it's tough to keep track of him because he's moving every second, just like recruiting is in the SEC, trying to track down all these 4 and 5 stars that are getting plucked up by the 14 teams in the conference. The league is going crazy, as is the rest of the country during this month of June, but specifically the SEC. So certainly follow Blayne's work, because it's exceptional, and he is one busy guy. All right, we get to spot number 3 here, and to consider that this guy over the last 2 years has averaged 7.5 and 6.6 yards per carry in the Kentucky offense, much like we highlighted with Kevin Harris at South Carolina. Opposing defenses could just say, okay, we're going to stop the ground game. Not much is happening to threaten us through the air, but Chris Rodriguez still putting up big numbers.
And what's even more impressive with Chris Rodriguez, like you said, people could sell out for the run. There is no team that's more true of than Kentucky. They literally have not had – I mean, last year had Joey Gatewood for parts, but they have literally not had a quarterback that is a true quarterback. They've been playing with moving receivers and running backs and all kinds of stuff to quarterback. And the job that Mark Stoops and his staff have done and the faith that they've shown in Chris Rodriguez and the subsequent performance that he has put forth out of that faith in him is unbelievable. He's tough as nails. I mean, there's not a person that you would want to have more in a short yardage goal line type situation. Chris Rodriguez is dependable. You hand him the ball, he's going to get movement. He's going to push the pile forward and is explosive as well. He's very much so in the vein of a former Kentucky star, Benny Snell. I mean, that same kind of line there. Chris Rodriguez is tremendous. Like you said, 6.6 yards per carry. Him and Kevin Harris just killed it last year in that category. So I'm going to say that, Chris Rodriguez he could have a shot. You talk to me maybe 3 games into the season, Chris Rodriguez may end up in the number 1 slot, but I think right now I'm going to leave him at that number 3 position.
Yeah, Terry Wilson is not going to confuse anyone with Peyton Manning at quarterback for Kentucky, even though he won quite a few games there. And then they had so many injuries at the position once Wilson went down last year that they were playing Lynn Bowden, their leading receiver. Now, get this for a hat trick. Kentucky football had the same player, Lynn Bowden, lead the team in passing, rushing, and receiving because he caught like 30 passes his first 3 or 4 games before he got switched to quarterback, and that held up as the top receiving statistic for Kentucky football. So they were just doing whatever they could to patch together an offense last year. Now, hopefully, with Joey Gatewood developing, possibly if they develop him, open up the offense, that could open up some running lanes for Chris Rodriguez, like you say, Blayne, to have a huge year in Lexington. As we move it up to number 2 on your list, of course, people excited there on the Plains about Tank Bigsby, even adding to the numbers that he's accomplished thus far.
As well they should be. I can tell you in terms of covering Georgia football recruiting very closely over at UGAsports.com, Tank Bigsby was a gut punch to the Georgia community. They wanted Tank Bigsby very badly to come to Georgia, ends up at Auburn and goes through that crazy year that was the last year of Gus Malzahn's existence there at Auburn. And now with Brian Harsin coming in, Tank Bigsby is the perfect back to fit Brian Harsin's offense. A more pro-style offense has Mike Bobo in there. If anybody wants to know, Mike Bobo was the coordinator of those offenses that had the Todd Gurleys and the Keith Marshalls, and early on with the Sony Michel, Nick Chubb in their careers. So Mike Bobo is a believer in being able to – he's going to throw it around too, but he's a believer in getting downhill, running the football, and nobody does that better and more physically imposing than Tank Bigsby. That Tank is very apropos because he runs with a mean streak to him, and he's also an elite athlete, someone that is has plenty of home run speed, average 6 yards a carry. It seems like some of these guys averaging 6 yards a carry used to just be unheard of in the SEC, and now these guys are just slashing through defenses. So Tank Bigsby for Auburn, number 2 there on the Plains.
Much like a lot of these running backs that we're running down in the top 10 who carry the load for their particular team, Blayne is carrying the load in bringing us the top 10 running backs in the nation. I kind of took the week off. We're just going with Blayne's top 10. I usually will dive in with my top 10 as well. But I will say this, Blayne, like you, I would have this guy at number 1. He not only for me is the best running back in the SEC, he's probably my personal favorite. I just love watching this guy run. He is not a true burner, but he's got football speed, and he is a guy that's just I don't want to elevate him to Barry Sanders type standards, but man, he makes guys miss all over the place, and that's of course Isaiah Spiller.
Yeah, I think we better keep Mr. Sanders' name out of this. People accuse us of blasphemy, but Isaiah Spiller, they're at A&M. So Georgia with 2 backs on the list, A&M with 2 backs on the list, and I say it's Spiller at the top of the SEC. No better example of what Isaiah Spiller and Ainias Smith both were able to do than that surgical, just methodical march down the field to keeping the ball away from Florida. Florida could not stop the run in that game in College Station last year. And, Dan Mullen was, upset about the crowd, saying it didn't look like whatever capacity limit they had looked like more than that. Well, he should have been more worried about Todd Grantham and company stopping the run, because Isaiah Spiller ran it down their throats. And, Jimbo Fisher loved that more than anything. But Isaiah Spiller is a complete back, like you said, not the fastest, not the strongest, not any superlative that you would think of, but just overall the most complete back and a special part of what Texas A&M hopes to be a special year. If you want to hear more about Texas A&M, Jerrion, Mark and I have an episode over on Recruiting Every Second. We just did a deep dive on Texas A&M over there. So Isaiah Spiller, number 1 back in the SEC for me.
Always love the SEC conversation with Blayne. Gilmer joins us on a regular basis here at the Voice of College Football. And again, check out the banner, Recruiting Every Second. And you can follow Blayne there at Twitter. His handle's bgilmer18. It's loaded in the SEC at running back as it is at wide receiver and other positions. And as we noted off the top, we can keep throwing names at people. So I'm going to list some names as kind of an honorable mention list. You throw out anything in terms of any kind of feedback, anything you'd like to highlight here. I'm going to start right at the top in regards to somebody that you know a whole lot about, and that's and it's going to be on some of the lists I'm guessing of viewers that are going to comment below, and that's Georgia's James Cook.
James Cook is phenomenally talented, every bit as talented as just about every running back on this list, and may have a tremendous NFL career, and he has just not produced at the level that I think Georgia expected him to when he was coming out of the Miami area in high school, the younger brother of Dalvin Cook. So until maybe this will be the year that James Cook turns the corner and really produces for Georgia.
Dameon Pierce there at Florida. It's going to be interesting because if any team in the nation is going to have a flip in offensive approach, it's Dan Mullen, going from Kyle Trask throwing it 70% of the time to let's get conservative. We've got a running first quarterback. Let's focus on the running game, and Dameon Pierce may benefit from that. I ran for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. Devin Akane at Texas A&M, so there's a third running back there, gained like 300 yards, 8.5 yards per carry. Kenny McIntosh, if we want to go back to Georgia, a very capable back that could be a star anywhere else, average about 5 yards per carry. Tank Bigsby, when he's taking a blow, of course, Sean Shivers fills in capably for him at 4.5 yards per carry. The LSU situation, 2 guys that came in the same recruiting class, Blayne and Tyrion Davis-Price and John Emery, both have been productive players, good players. We'll see if one of them breaks out to be a top 10 type player. Trey Sanders, the 5-star at Alabama, we'll see if he's able to wrestle some carries away from Brian Robinson and company.
Yeah, trying to see if he's fully healthy from that leg injury, at the start of his freshman year there. So,
and I've got other guys here. I'll only mention one more. DeMarcus Bowman. We mentioned the situation there in Florida with Dameon Pierce. DeMarcus Bowman.
See, Mark, Florida running backs are disqualified from this list until Dan Mullen proves that he will actually run the football. I don't think, which I know you said he's going to have to flip it, but I still have to see it out of Dan Mullen. It's easy to say something. I know even from coaching at the high school level, you go from one year to we throwing it most of the time, and next year saying, we're going to establish a run, and then you're still throwing it 45, 50 times a game. So until a Florida running back runs the ball more than 10 times in a game, I'm out on Florida running backs on this list.
So Florida fans, especially beware of if Florida, the first 2 carries of the season only goes for like 2 or 3 yards, and then Dan Mullen's going to be like too impatient and say, no. Bring back that 2020 offense. Let's just run those plays.
They're going to run the ball, but it's going to be with Emory Jones.
Yeah, true. Very true. Blayne Gilmer, recruiting every second. Gotta follow his work right there. You can track him there on Twitter at bgilmer18. Leave your comments down below. Of course, like the video, share the videos out on social media. The thought process there is you enjoy the content, others will as well. So please help us build the channel by sharing the videos right here at the Voice of College Football. Blayne, we appreciate you always stopping by and laying down your SEC knowledge.
Thank you. I always enjoy it. I look forward to our next video.